Hi there. This video is to give you a brief introduction to the OpsCare blue-green deployment process. If you are familiar with our OpsCare service and you've read the webpage, if you scroll down you'll see we talk about something called pre-baked deployment. Pre-baked deployment is a critical part of the OpsCare stack. It allows us to scale quickly and deploy and roll back in a proven, reliable and reversible manner. So what does blue-green deployment actually mean? How would you use it in real life? Well, let me give you an example. So right now, we're on our reinteractive main production website here. And if we go to the demos page, we can see we've got a demonstration page. And there are some things that need fixing up on this. For example, this is blue, we want to make it green. And it wraps over the line here, which is a bit annoying. So we're going to fix that up. So if we were going to fix this locally, we'd first get it running on our local computer, obviously, as your developer would do. So we'll get that running locally, and there we are on a local version. And then we'd jump into the code base and we'd go, well, that doesn't quite work. So let's make it 70% and let's change this color to green as we would make some changes. Then when we reload that, and we should have a nice green page. Okay, I'm not claiming that this is the most aesthetically designed page in the world, but for our purposes, it'll work. We now have a green title and the text is now wider. So the next thing we do is we're happy with that change. We of course would run the tests because best practices would have you run your tests before you do any deployment, and I'm deploying this to our live production site, so I really want to make sure I haven't broken anything. So those tests will load up and then they'll run, and the running will be pretty quick. And there you go. So we've got all those tests passing, so that's good. So now we'll just have a look at the source code. We've only changed one file, so we'll go ahead and commit that. And then we'll push that up to the development environment. And then we'll push that up to the development source code repository, which we're hosting on GitHub in this case. So the next thing we'd do is we'd go ahead and deploy that. Now, when you're an OpsCare customer, you get a tool called OpsCare, and you can go ahead and describe the stack. So if we describe it, it will go off and gather up all the info, and it'll come back with a list of details telling you what the stack looks like. So you can see that we've got a production environment and we've got a staging environment, and production web is running 2 instances, and they're the URL, the IP addresses of those, with the instance IDs, what roles they're running, and so on and so forth. So if we wanted to deploy to staging, we'd just go OpsCare, deploy, staging, and we'd tell it what role. So this is important because different environments might have different roles. You might have extra worker roles or all sorts of things in different environments. And things we're doing a CSS change, there may not be any reason to deploy to the worker environment. While this is deploying, I'll show you another little feature. If someone else in your company also decided to do a deployment at the same time, it would have a look, because you can see here that we've locked the group here on this second line. So it would pull out and it would say, sorry, it's already been locked, creator Michael Limzar, and it's exiting. So then I could contact Michael and say, hey, what's going on? You know, are you deploying? Is it start? You know, whatever. But we can coordinate appropriately. So that deployment's going to go ahead in the staging environment. But you know, I'm going to let that run, and I'm going to go deploy production at the same time because I want to show you this working. So we're going to deploy the production environment. We would need to merge that code and make sure that that's on GitHub, because otherwise it wouldn't deploy anything, obviously. So what happens when we're deploying? A few things. The first thing it does is it finds the next Amazon machine image. So this is part of the pre-baked deployment. So if we have a look at the Aws console for this environment, we can come in here and we can see that, well, there's quite a few things running now, but if we only have a look at the production servers, we can see that we've booted a new workbench. Now, the 2 existing servers are here, and if we look down, we can see that they're running on Amazon machine image 266. So what's happening now is this workbench is getting deployed, and it's being created on machine image 266, and it's booting up and installing. And if we come back to the OpsCare deployment process, what we can see is we're going to create a new machine image, number 267. So sometimes getting the instance to boot, it needs to wait for a minute. wait for Amazon to boot it up, but usually it's pretty quick. Now what happens is we run the update on that server, right? So it's noticed that the local SHA is this, the requested SHA is that, there's a difference. So it's going to pull the updates down from GitHub, create a new release dir, and then it will do everything it needs to do to get that deployment ready. So in this case, we've changed the SAS file. So we'll probably need to do an asset compilation. So the next thing that will happen is after it's been installed, it'll boot up the Rails app, do its SAS compilation and all that sort of thing, which can take a little bit depending on how big your app is. But the point is that all of that happens during this deployment process instead of trying to happen when you're booting the app. It's also happening on a workbench that has nothing to do with your production environment. So these two are still handling all the production web requests. These two auto-scaling web production servers. This is completely separate. And while we're booting that, obviously, we can jump into the reinteractive website and we can reload this to our heart's content, and there's nothing going wrong there. So what you can see now when I've jumped back is we're now doing the deployment. So I'll scroll back up to the top there. You can see the other thing that's happened is a bundle install is done. So this is, again, done on the workbench. So if there was a problem with that bundle install, it might crash. If there was a conflict or what have you, you're not touching any of your production servers. So there's no chance of blowing up your production environment. In this case, there was no migrations to do, so it didn't do that. We did have to compile assets. And you can see that it's compiling all the assets. This takes a little bit of time. So now that we've compiled all the assets, we've done the deploy, we've done everything we need to do, we now have a pristine copy of this environment on this workbench box. So now what's happening is it's going to create a new Amazon machine image from this box. So if we jump back over here to the console, you'll see it's still running because it's copying up the machine image. But once that's done, this workbench will actually shut down and we'll have a new machine image, which will be 267 because this one's 266. So copying and doing that machine image can take a little bit of time, maybe up to a minute sometimes. However, you only have to do that once for each deploy. And then scaling after that will be done automatically straight off the machine image, which means you can boot very, very quickly. You're not having to boot up a new server, download the code, update the code, do the bundle install, do the asset compilation to start the server, which is how non-pre-baked deployments work. So for example, in a non-pre-baked environment, you would have to start a new instance. So we'd go into here and we'd copy this instance, give it a new name, log into it, update all the code, get all the things working on it, make sure it's all working, and then inject it into the auto-scaling group. That's hard. That's a lot of manual work. And even if you automate it, it means booting up some extra servers can take half an hour or even 10 minutes, as opposed to maybe 30 or 60 seconds. So once the machine image has been built, here we have it here, 267, the way we're going to deploy is we're actually going to grow the auto-scaling group from 2 to 4 servers. So what we've now done is we've got the 2 existing servers, these 2. You can see the workbench is being shut down now. We don't need that anymore. It's done its job. It's built its image. So we have the 2 existing servers. They're handling all the traffic. And these 2 new servers, which are built on machine image 267, are now booting up. So if we go back to the reinteractive website and we're loading, we still have the service. It's still running fine. There's no change there. Everything's working okay. So these 2 images are going to boot. And they'll boot up pretty quick. As you can see, they're already booted up. The next thing that needs to happen is the instances need to get their Rails server running, and they need to pass a health check test. So we have a health check built into the auto-scaling group to make sure that these servers are actually up and running before we inject them into the pool to serve live traffic. Once the servers are up and running, which they are now, but we're still waiting for those health checks to kick off and make sure the app's responding fine, the next thing that happens is we'll scale the auto-scaling group back down from 4 servers back down to 2 servers. Now, when this happens, the auto-scaling group has a rule that if it scales down, it kills the oldest instances first. Okay, good. So now we're shrinking back down. So the deployment's finished, the health checks on those instances are coming up, and now we're going to shrink the auto-scaling group back down to 2. So if we come back over here and look, we'll see that they're now shutting down. So this one's shutting down, and in a second, this top one, there we go. So now we have both of the old machine images shutting down, the old instances. And you can see they were on AMI 266. And if we go over to the reinteractive website and we reload, there we go. We've got a nice green page now. So that was all running fine. Now, the next thing that might happen, say, is one of these instances might die. So let's go ahead and terminate one of our production instances. So we're just going to terminate that. We know that that's going to be okay because, well, OpsCare is a load balanced redundant stack. So reloading here, no change. Of course, we're now running at half capacity. But what will happen now is that the auto-scaling group has been told that the minimum requirement is 2 instances. So in between about 30 seconds and 60 seconds, it will notice that one of those instances has crashed and not responding to queries anymore, and it will start booting up a new server. So one of the things we do here is the auto-scaling group has health checks. The reason we have these health checks in place, I mean, we could make this almost instantaneous, but what you don't want is for a brief lack of response from a server to result in it being replaced, because then you get a situation where you're booting up lots and lots and lots of servers that you don't need. But you can see here, it was only about 30 seconds or so. A new instance is now being booted to replace the one that died, and that's on the new machine image. And we've still got a totally fine environment here. There's no problem whatsoever. So that another one's booting up. However, while that's all happening, we realize that, wow, we actually don't want green here, we want blue. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly roll that back. So even while it's doing updates or booting new servers, doesn't matter. All we do is we issue the rollback command. And what that does is it goes in and marks the most recent launch configuration group as bad, and then marks the previous one as good, and then scales up and scales down. So it uses the exact same deployment mechanism. But what's going to happen this time is the servers, we're going to get 2 new servers, and these are going to be on the previous machine image. You can see here they're running 266, whereas the ones that are in production, 267. And this is another example of the benefits of a pre-baked deployment. Did you note we didn't have to go looking for the right GitHub SHA to deploy? We didn't have to revert any commits. We didn't have to log in to uninstall some gem or fix up the code base. All we did was issue the rollback command. 30 seconds later, those servers are now running. And then what will happen over here is once they're actually in the group, ready to go, it will then scale back down. And now we can see that now we're scaling down the environment again. So back in the console, when we refresh this, yeah, the 267 servers will be scaled down and the 266 servers will be left running. And there we go. They're now shutting down. So both of those newer servers that were deployed, 267 are shutting down, and that leaves us with the 266 servers running. And if we go back to our reinteractive website and reload this, we've reverted back to the blue deployment. So that's a brief demonstration on how blue-green deployment works within the OpsCare stack. I hope you found it interesting, and please, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us by clicking the contact link up here. You can get to us via email, phone, or filling out the form. We'd love to hear from you, and if you have any other questions, of course, you can read the OpsCare services page on our website. Thank you for watching.